Hello. Reading the comments on my vid, one of the most upvoted ones was a request to do a carrier game. And honestly, I haven't done a carrier game in a while, so I decided to, get my Hakuryu out and play a game in it. Now, carrier mechanics are quite different from any other mechanics in the game. So you kind of have to, you can easily get rusty with them, and that's why I attempt to play at least one or a couple carrier games every week, so I don't get too rusty. I still don't have the mechanics of someone who constantly plays carrier, of course, but I try to make sure that I don't completely lose my edge, that I'm still able to consistently carry in them. And of course, tier 10 carriers, well, any carriers really, but especially tier 10 ones are pretty much the ultimate carry ship in the game. They easily decide which way a game can go. First thing I do, I send my torp planes out and I go to scout the usual DD positions. They have a lot of DDs, a lot of tier 10 DDs, so I'm hoping to catch one of them. So I send them out to scout in front of my friendly DDs, and well, this is usually where C is on this map, I think, and this is a usual spot for enemy DDs to show up, so hence why quickly sending the planes there to see if an enemy DD will show up. And we do, we find a Shimakaze. I instantly manual drop. For those not aware, you hold down Alt to manual drop. I manual drop a small cross drop from the side. You see how those torpedo bombers intersect, makes it really nasty to dodge. He's forced to turn away to dodge them, of course, and the idea is I'll drop him from the side now that he's unable to turn left or right. However, it turns out, well, I don't know if the drop was so nasty or if he simply messed it up a bit, but regardless, he was unable to even dodge those. Even if he had been able to dodge those, the side drop at the end would have killed him. And that's of course one of the primary advantages you have as a Japanese carrier or a US carrier, is the fact that you are able to cross drop. The basic concept of a cross drop is you drop first from the side and you lock the DD into a certain path he's forced to take, and once he's done that, you drop him from the other side and you create this cross pattern which makes it impossible for a DD to dodge them. There are some ways they can dodge, namely slowing down quickly is one way, or turning into the torpedoes, but overall against a skilled carrier it's extremely hard to dodge a good cross torp. I'm trying to strafe here, but I keep having to abort it because his fighter happens to have just a bit of ammo left and he keeps tagging my own fighter, so a strafe there would have killed my own planes. You can friendly fire with strafes, so I decided to just kill a few of his torpedo planes and then send the fighters home. My strafes were honestly quite bad there, and that's kind of the thing though, you tend to be out of practice when you don't play them as much. I'm gonna see if this Hindenburg has defensive AA. Yes, yes, you see how I sent them in and I kept an eye on the targeting circle. As soon as the targeting circle became large like that, it told me that the Hindenburg has popped defensive AA. I lost one squad, but if I had gone in, I would most likely not have hit a single bomb and I would have lost all the squads. So taking my planes out right away was the correct choice to save as many planes as possible. And I did gain some pretty good information. First of all, the Hindenburg is running defensive AA, not Hydro. You can never really be certain which way he's running. And that information, now I know I'll have to avoid him in the future. And of course I forced him to pop the consumable, and ultimately it only cost me a couple of bombers, so not the end of the world. I'm gonna see if I can get this Benson. It looks like he's going to get killed earlier than that. There's a Bismarck that has split up from the rest of the fleet, and of course as a carrier, not only do you want to focus DDs, like I did for example the Shimakaze, who's split up from the rest of his group, but these kind of battleships that go on their own little missions and they leave behind all that cover and all that help they could have, they are of course your favorite targets, because a battleship by himself has absolutely no chance of defending against you when you're a tier 10 carrier. They have no defense against you. Important to notice, I'm intentionally delaying this second torpedo bomber because he repaired the fire instantly that I got on him with the bombers. I guess he was hoping he would be able to repair the flooding as soon as it hit, but by delaying those bombs, German repair only lasts 15 seconds, so by delaying that second strike with the torpedo bombers, I now have a permanent flooding on him. When I say permanent flooding, I mean a flooding that will last pretty much a full duration. So he's most likely already going to die from that flooding alone. You can see my damage numbers top right, they're constantly ticking because of that. So that's good. Sadly, I have a Shimakaze who's all alone in the middle of them, and I have a North Carolina that's also all alone. So, of course, mistakes like that Bismarck made is they are never exclusive to the enemy team. Your friendlies tend to do the same kind of dumb stuff, and it's of course quite hard to actually help him out now. But well, I can try. This same Montana from earlier, it looks like the Hindenburg is no longer there. Or, no, actually, it's another Montana. They have two Montanas. Well, that makes this an interesting choice to target. The Shimakaze was being covered by one of the planes, so I strafe away his fighters. Not only does this give me the opportunity to spot the enemy Shimakaze, but also if I decide to strike, the Shimakaze is of course a very tempting target for me, because striking DDs is very valuable. Okay, that was a terrible strafe, Jesus. I actually expected him to turn away and like turn his torpedo bombers around and flee, but he decided to just go straight through, so that made that strafe absolutely horrid. Well, that's kind of what happens when you're out of practice when it comes to playing carrier. If you want to become a good carrier player, I recommend playing it a lot. Well, not as much as playing it a lot, but playing it consistently. You gotta keep those, the UI is a bit laggy, there's some delays, some commands don't really work the way you expect them to, sometimes the UI straight up refuses to make certain commands. If you issue too many commands too quickly, then it will randomly untarget your own planes and it might do a lot of wonky things. There's a lot of things that you don't really expect that aren't really that intuitive. That you just have to get used to, and playing the game a lot or playing a carrier a lot and consistently kind of lets you adapt to those. Oh, Montana, he is splitting off from the other Montana, and as I said, it doesn't matter if you're a Montana, if you leave the rest of your fleet behind, then you become an easy target for the carrier. I line up my drops, I adjust the last one at the last minute because I expect him to speed up. I keep my bombers away because I want to trigger a flooding, and then once he's repaired I want to trigger a fire. So he's going to hit a lot of those. Worth noting is, before I go in for strikes on targets that I know have a lot of anti-air, for example the Montana, I make sure that the planes regroup. What you often see new carriers do is they send their planes one at a time in towards their target. They send one bomber and then a couple seconds later another bomber and then a couple seconds another bomber and so forth. And the problem with doing that is it allows the ship's anti-air to focus one squad at a time. Holy crap, I got pretty terrible RNG there, but it happens. Anyway, when you send them in with delays, it allows the ship's AA to fully focus one squad at a time, and you eat so much more AA damage and you lose so many more planes doing it, and ultimately your strikes will suffer. So whenever you can clump up your planes like I did there, that you strike all at once, you greatly limit the time you have to spend in AA and the amount of AA damage you'll end up taking. There are of course downsides to it. For example, if an enemy carrier strafes you, then having all of your planes clumped up is a huge weakness. I'm seeing if I can bait these fighters into this Minotaur. I'm just using this one bomber squad honestly as bait. I'm baiting these bombers into the Des Moines, or these fighters into the Des Moines and the Minotaur. Both of course have fantastic anti-air, so I'm more than happy to bait him in here. I shouldn't really need to even cover this guy with my planes because, well, that's just silly. Why is he striking a target that's protected by Minotaur and Des Moines? I might be a bit desperate, but honestly he should be going for the DDs that are in his spawn, and he should be going for the Yamato on the south. If you might notice, we have a Montana that is on H10. I'm not joking, if you look at the minimap you can see a Montana on H10. So as I said, you have the stupidity that you see on the enemy team is never really limited to the enemy team. You have a lot of really potato stuff going on your own team as well, and as your job as a carrier is just try to mitigate the amount of damage those potatoes suffer, because the problem is once the potatoes die, then the carriers will focus on other targets. So the longer you can keep a potato alive, the longer he'll serve as a distraction, and when they are juicy enough targets, that makes it quite easy. Now I could be helping my DDs in their base, but because they are going for the cap in the enemy base, and I don't really want to cap. I mean, I think it's really silly to cap in a standard battle when not even half the enemy ships have died yet, which means the XP everyone will get will be absolutely abysmal. I don't think it's worth going for the cap at all, so I'm just pulling my planes back. I mean, if they wanna YOLO into the enemy cap and try to cap, they can do it on their own. They shouldn't expect any backup from me, because that's just a decision that I don't support at all. This North Carolina, of course, he blew his repair on my flooding, and once again I come in with a delayed torpedo bomber. This is of course something you can only do against split up ships. If you attempt to do this against groups, I mean, even to one North Carolina I already lost 2 torpedo bombers. If you attempt to do this against groups, well, you're gonna end up losing a whole lot more than that. Of course, I get 2 torpedo hits and there's no flooding on either, so sometimes RNG just screws you over. I pick a fight with these two. I engage the 2 fighters because there's a Kutuzov nearby, and Kutuzov of course has fantastic AA, so I'm more than happy to engage them there, since I will easily win that air duel without any issues, because the Kutuzov will help me so much. Bismarck has grounded, once again, that means he is a primary target for me. I go in with 2 bomber squads. The goal, once again, usually the goal when you send in a couple at the first is always to get their repair going. Sadly, I only got 1 fire. With 4 bomb hits, I only got 1 fire, so really pretty bad RNG in that sense. But if you look at the top right, you should always keep an eye out for your top right damage counter. If you look at the top right, you'll see that the damage isn't ticking, so I already know that he's used his damage Kong, and that makes him a primary target. Now our Fletcher, who I'm not really a big fan of this guy, he literally rushed right into the enemy cap, then he smoked up and he's trying to cap it. So I'm not gonna support DDs like that, and that's kind of the advantage you have as a carrier. You can choose which decisions you want to support and which you don't. And sometimes when you see your team doing dumb shit, you don't necessarily have to support it like I'm doing here. Since I know he's used his repair, I use a manual drop to set the fire. 3 hits, not a single fire. Of course, RNG is still loving me right now. I should have dropped a bit closer, honestly, but I was greedy. I want to see if I can save this other torpedo bomber, and I think I'm just going to save it. Since I wanted to go for multiple hits, but I got 2 hits and a flooding, so he's dead regardless, so I'm not going to waste any more torpedo bombers on him. I mean, I could go for the kill, but I don't really care. Oh, I even got the kill regardless. Strafing some of his planes while he's not paying attention, but ultimately I haven't really been doing my utmost this game to focus down the enemy planes, and that's mostly because he's been focusing a lot of ships that I don't really mind if they die. For example, our DD is trying to ninja cap the enemy base. I don't really care too much if he kills those, because I don't really support that decision making to begin with. The enemy carrier isn't paying attention. This happens sometimes. You tunnel vision on some other part, you tunnel vision on a drop or something, and then all of a sudden you notice, whoa, he's being dropped. Of course, as soon as he took damage, you notice it, he pops his defensive AA, and he starts moving forward, which is why I drop at the angle I'm dropping right here. And let's see, will I get a flooding, or is RNG still hating me? Yeah, RNG is still hating me, so I don't get the flooding or repair or anything, or broken engine or anything. Yamato is being struck, but at this point they're gonna have a hard time trying to get the win out of this. He repairs my fire, but he's so exposed, and his repairs on cooldown, he's being HE spammed. He's most likely dead. They have another Shimakaze though, so maybe I'll get to show a proper cross drop this time. I didn't the original cross drop on the first Shimakaze, I didn't think it was, I mean, it wasn't that pretty because he died before I could actually put the T on the cross, so to say. So I'll see if I'll be able to pull it off on this Shimakaze. I'm sending my bombers in on this Hakuryu just to see if I might get some hits. He's got defensive AA active still. It lasts 2 minutes on carriers, so I'm not even bothering with the manual drops. Isn't worth help. It's all RNG if I get hits or not at this point. And with the RNG I've been having today, well, this probably isn't the best move. Yeah, honestly, his AA is so strong, he's just killing the planes. No point feeding him more planes. He's gonna die anyway, so let him die. I'm gonna go for the Shimakaze instead. Let's see if we can blow his repair. Once again, blowing the repair isn't limited just to cruisers and battleships. If you're just about to strike a DD, blowing his repair with a fire or something can be quite annoying, because bombers tend to cause a lot of... Oops, that's a bad. The left bomb is... The second bomb might be better. Yeah, that one got a fire and broke something, so it's a high possibility he might be repairing it. Now, let's see if I can show the cross drop. First of all, I want to coral him into going a certain direction. You see, he's starting to turn right. I'm okay with this, so I'm dropping really close to make him keep turning to the right. So he's turning to the right to avoid these torps. He can no longer adjust his course because there's two torpedoes right behind him. This is the first part of the cross drops. Here's the second part. I drop from the side. When he's corralled into going a certain direction, that's when you put the side drop in, and that side drop is ultimately what leaves him without any options to escape. He tried to slow down to avoid it, and honestly, if he had gone full speed, he might have even avoided the cross torp. It's sketchy, but he might have been able to avoid it going full speed. But ultimately, slowing down, which was something I expected, he ate an even worse volley. Someone is saying Flamu Kraken go go go, and I actually have 230k damage and 4 kills, but the Moskva has defensive AA, so actually getting a drop in here is gonna be unlikely. I'm going for the double hit, basically one in the middle, one in the far right, because of the way he's moving, but I don't think it's gonna be enough to kill him. 2 hits, I did get the flooding, but yeah, this is eating so much damage. Nope, no Kraken for me, sadly. But the game ends, and of course this shows just how much control you have as a T10 carrier in the game. I mean, carriers are still the ultimate, the best carry in the game. They are the ultimate game deciders. They're the strongest ship by far. No other ship comes even close to the sheer carry potential of a carrier. That hasn't changed with the meta. But here's the biggest issue. My XP. I solo killed both Shimakazes. I wrecked the Montana, I wrecked the Bismarck, I wrecked so many ships, I did 244k damage, and I'm third on the scoreboard with 1.9k base XP. That is an absolute joke. I mean, looking at all the damage I caused to all the different ships, I wrecked so many DDs, I did all that spotting, I even killed enemy planes, like all this work I did, but the game rewards are absolute garbage for this. And credits, and you might have thought that the credits look pretty good. That's because I'm running the Gamescom camo and the Zulu and the reduced service cost ones. Without this, you suddenly realize I gained 250k from these alone. So when you remove that from it, and then you remove the minus 10% from the service cost, suddenly you start realizing that the actual credits I made was about 100k. And if I hadn't been running premium, I would have lost a significant amount of money. I would have lost money if I hadn't been running all this pimped stuff and premium. This T10 game would have lost me money without premium. So that is, of course, incredibly goddamn broken. And of course, one of the main reasons why a lot of CV players are rightly very upset. The XP rewards and the cash rewards are absolute fucking shit. Right, since it's been a while, I'll go over my recommended build. First of all, you want to upgrade the torpedo bombers. They are your bread and butter damage dealers, so upgrading their cruise speed and hit points is absolutely incredibly important. Absolutely vital even. Next up, fighters. These are what keeps your planes alive, and upgrading your fighters is incredibly important. Once you have got that, then you can upgrade flight control, which gives you 1 additional bomber, so it's not really that big of a deal, and why I prefer getting the torpedo bombers and fighters first. Once you have those, then you can finally upgrade your dive bombers. Consumable wise, you should be running the premium damage control and the defensive AA because they have so much shorter cooldown. I mean, if you're playing a tier 10 carrier or a high tier carrier, you don't have money issues in the first case because you already know that playing carriers is a goddamn waste of money if you don't have money issues. Well, if you have it. Upgrade wise, air groups, the other one is just pointless, whereas air groups saves lives. Air groups mod 2, 20% to fighters HP. You'll notice a huge difference here, whereas the 10% aircraft servicing time is something you will unlikely even notice. You only have 2 fighters, you need to make them as strong as possible. Finally, the 3 million upgrade, you want the air groups mod 3, which gives 15% HP to all attack planes, which means torpedo bombers and bombers. The reason why carriers gain such a massive goddamn power spike at tier 9 is this upgrade alone, because it gives you the survivability of 2 tiers when you hit tier 9, because this is like an additional tier of survivability. In fact, you might say you have tier 11 survivability planes because of this upgrade alone. Damage control, because fires are the devil and they're your absolute biggest threat. Once again, damage control mod 2, because fires are still the devil and you want to avoid them. Some argument could be made for steering gears mod 2, but ultimately your turning circle is over 1 kilometer, 1.25 kilometer turning circle, so you're not going to be dodging shit regardless. Concealment system, because you want to be stealthy, you don't want to be seen in the first place. Captain perks. Basics of survivability, in case you missed it, fires are the devil, so you want to avoid them. Torpedo armament expertise, faster reload on torpedo bombers, 20%, which is a massive increase and very important. Torpedo acceleration, that 5 knots boosts you from 35 to 40 knots, which is a huge increase and makes it much easier to hit everything, especially DDs. And aircraft servicing expert, followed by, of course, by air supremacy to get that additional fighter and bomber. Last 3 points into high alert, once again, because fires are the devil and you want to avoid it. Stuff like dogfighting expert is absolutely useless. Basic firing training, too situational. None of the other perks even come close to the value of high alert, which is, of course, what keeps you alive and allows you to keep attacking, because you're the only ship in the game that if you get set on fire, you suddenly can't attack anymore. Anyway, that was my Hakuryu commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed it.